Sit down and get a snack. Isaac McCormick has put us in for the long haul. I apologize also to you, Isaac, because you merely wanted to see 10 unpopular opinions. However, I felt the need to shift it to 10 unpopular opinions about society here in America. What I don't apologize for are my opinions and my thoughts. Because let's face it, it's whenever you have a couple of voices that actually stand up and shout that we actually may see some social change. These are things that probably won't be changed, maybe not within my lifetime. However, it's something that needs to be said, even if it just means that the groundwork is being, laid. So, let's do this in a, traditional style. Let's do that traditional American value type thing where we value things from 10 to 1 and escalate as opposed to going from 1 to 10, and thus wondering what is actually number 1. So let's start with number 10, the 10th unpopular opinion that I have. That opinion is that the technology is partially to blame for Americans' health problems. The health problems I speak about is obesity, it's depression, it's anxiety, things of those varieties, things that have certainly seemed to have gotten a big jump start in the past 15 years. Now, some people may claim it's the opinions of the media. Some may say that it's scientific, evidence that's being brought forth, and that a lot of it does have some legitimacy. And you know what? There's probably a good case to be solved there. However, at the same time, we have to also understand that drug companies are looking to, really market their drugs. And they're able to do so amazingly because the list of symptoms are so vague for some of these conditions that it is kind of hard for an American not to feel as though they have depression or anxiety or perhaps feel a little bit bipolar. And obesity is something that's kind of easily seen. It's very visual. However, technology is partially to blame for this. Why? Because, 20 to 30 years ago, whenever we didn't have Xboxes, whenever we barely had a Nintendo Entertainment System, computers were not in every home. In fact, it was something that was more of a luxury than anything. And we didn't have smartphones in our hands, we didn't have iPads, Kindles, and we, had books and things like that. This wasn't something that you saw all that much. Now, of course, awareness has certainly caused a lot more anxiety and a lot more disorder, but this is also something where this technology has become a bit of an addiction for Americans. Now, a couple of years ago, there were people that got in trouble because their babies died because they were playing Farmville. I'm fairly certain that that should be point number 1 whenever it comes to defending this idea. This is something where we are completely and totally obsessed with the technological doodads that we have, to the point where it's actually not only affecting our health, but it's also causing us not to want to do things. How does it affect our health? Quite simply. The things that we read, the things that we see, we react to them in certain manners. And while there are a lot of cat videos and, Cover Killer Nation videos that probably put a smile on the face, either that or, cause you to do this and give you a good feeling, there's just as much out there that can cause a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression. Whether it be a video, whether it be a photograph, or whether it just be you having a conversation with somebody that's not happening face to face, and people are misconstruing meaning, and then causing a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression and anger. Well, there you go. This is crazy. This is something where Americans really need to learn to put some of this stuff down and actually go out and enjoy the world that we have been given. No matter who gave it to us, this is still something that we need to enjoy, and we don't need to be so dependent on the things that we have ourselves manufactured. They are meant to be tools to assist us. They are not meant to be a second cornerstone to our life. Unpopular opinion number 9. The two-party system needs to be disbanded. This has become increasingly true as the decades have passed and the presidential elections have passed. This is an idea that has been age-old, however. Within these past couple of decades, we've noted that there are certain guidelines that make a Democrat and certain guidelines that make a Republican. It's to the point that within the systems and the parties themselves, if you don't fit that mold, they don't want to take you on. They don't want to back you as a candidate. They feel as though you're not representative of their party. And based around that, people that have had some great ideas have had to decide either to choose one of the two major parties, either that or run independently, which is essentially political suicide whenever it comes to the presidential election or many other elections. Now, in the lesser elections, there have been some independents that have been able to break through, and that's certainly a step in the right direction. However, whenever it comes to the presidential side, the closest that we've had has been Ross Perot. He ran for president multiple times, and every single time he failed. In fact, he failed pretty magnificently. He gained, some votes, but as far as carrying states and really being a legitimate threat to the Democrat or the Republican going for the office, he wasn't either of those things. This is something where it needs to be disbanded. That way the individuals that are going for the leadership position of our country are ones that are able to present their own individualized options and opinions. These are individuals that, yes, are going to have to get the backing of the Congress and the House of Representatives, which will be voted on, but if the two-party system is disbanded, this is something where those individuals are going to be voted by that same token and by that same merit. Instead of being pre-established with one of the two parties, this is something where everybody should run based around the platforms that they have and actually kind of grow grassroots. Something where the ideas that perhaps help on a city basis then can help on a statewide basis and then perhaps be elevated to the countrywide basis. This is something also where a gentleman such as Ron Paul decided to go Republican after his independent ideals definitely captivated the country whenever the first administration of Barack Obama was about to take power. In fact, he was somebody who was on the ballot for that 2008 election, however, was not a popular choice whatsoever. The system needs to be really, really disbanded, either that or at least looked at once again, and we need to recognize that the values of one party should not be the values of every man. It should instead be something where perhaps some of the core can be added on to, either that or somebody who is truthfully unique and has some things in mind that are truly going to help the nation are actually going to, get through. And also, we need to stop looking at this gosh darn thing as the Hatfields versus McCoys, only the political spectrum. Just because a Democrat is in office doesn't mean that Republicans should try to, destroy everything that he's trying to do. Just because a Republican is in office doesn't mean that the Democrat should do that. That's essentially what it is. It's pushing, it's shoving, it's posturing, it's stupid. You should be looking at things that are going to help all Americans, not just all Americans that back your party. Unpopular opinion number 8, and this one's probably more of a divided line. Barack Obama is not failing as a president. Now, am I saying this because I'm a registered Democrat? No. Am I saying this because the healthcare marketplace actually gave me something? No. I'm saying this because the gentleman is legitimately actually trying to try. He's actually in the office, and he's actually doing things with the office. Now, are we seeing the, universal change that perhaps was preached within both elections, the 2008 and 2012 campaigns? That's something that probably is not 100% true. However, he's not failing because he certainly caused a lot of different change and definitely has, really moved some waves whenever it comes to the political spectrum and America's spectrum. He's repairing America's, viewpoint from the world's perspective on a little bit of an occasion there. And not to mention, he's also doing great things with healthcare. He's trying to do things with education. But this is something that takes time. Everything that happens takes time. And whenever you are a country that has certainly underwent its certain share of destruction based around previous tenets of the White House, it's going to take some time for all of that damage to be repaired. So it's something where Barack Obama could basically have been a 100% approval rating president, and he probably wouldn't have repaired all of the damages that have been caused by the previous, 20 years of office. This is something that really started all the way back whenever the budget became so horribly imbalanced. Something that started at the tail end of Clinton's administration, but definitely elevated and amped itself up during the Bush administration and the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, the wars on terror. But be that as it may, he's certainly not failing. He's certainly doing things that are causing some good change in America, but it's just not in the universal ways that people were hoping for. People were hoping and expecting for the country to immediately be fixed. Something where, since we were in a recession, they expected immediately to get gigantic checks in their wallets, and they were going to be able to buy everything that they wanted to once again, perhaps like the 1990s or the roaring 1920s if we really want to use ancient texts. But this is something that's impossible to have happen unless there's some sort of global lottery that's hit, and it's not going to happen. This is something that really has to shift year by year, little by little. And really the stock market has gone up, which is not a representation of the entire country. However, it does show that the economy is at least trading well. Number 7. The media is fearful of blaming parents when youth tragedy strikes. Oh my lord, this has started with Columbine and has continued all the way up to the tragedies that we've had recently. Nobody wants to blame parents for anything. It's almost like they're scared of doing so. This is something where, 3 or 4 decades ago, if a kid came home and had bad grades, he had to answer to his parents and answer to the teacher about why his grades are poor, why he was failing, or she. This is something where now the grades are being questioned, the kids are completely out of control, and everyone's taking the side of their children. It's like you have to be your child's buddy and kind of kiss their ass and let them do whatever they want. Either that or you're considered to be a bad parent. You have to fear for child services to come after your ass. The media doesn't exactly make it any better because whenever tragedy strikes, they don't look at, the parents perhaps missing warning signs, either that or this or that, or just, the kids themselves having, fucked up wiring in their brains. Instead, they immediately go after the things that, well, while it may actually have a little tiny piece of output, it really does not shape the individual. They look at music, they look at movies, they look at, video games, they look at all the graphic material that's out there and immediately pinpoint that as the problem. When in reality, there could be many other things, many other aspects. They don't talk about the home life that much anymore. You don't hear about people having fucked up childhoods. It's something that you don't hear the media cover, principally because it's something that's not PC. It's not PC for people to have a fucked up home life any longer. It's something where now, if you have a fucked up home life, you have to go to Oprah. You have to go to Maury Povich. You have to go to Jerry Springer. You have to go to one of those shows and explain your fucked up situation, and more often than not, you're laughed at. So yeah, if the media really wants to report about all of these tragedies, they should definitely point the finger at the parents a little bit more. Because let's face it, parents are fucking up a lot more than just their children. They're fucking up other people because of their children. Number 6, adjusting the minimum wage won't solve the economy's problems. This one should seem a little bit obvious, but I can understand why people don't think that it is. People think that if you raise the minimum wage, let's say from, where it is currently at $7.25 up to $11 an hour, all of the economy's problems will be solved. Because with an extra $4 in your pocket nearly per hour, you'll finally be able to buy all of those things that you want, and thus you'll stimulate the economy. Thus, all of these businesses will begin to have, great years and great days and stuff like that. And really, there'll just be more money going around. It's not the way that it happens. Think about this. You're a company, and at $7.25 an hour, you're barely making ends meet with all of your employees. Maybe you're offering some of your higher-ups some health insurance benefits and this and that, but the lower ones, that's all that you're able to give them. Now amp that up by $4 without adjusting your prices. That narrows the margins even more so, and for those companies that are very, very close to operating in the red as opposed to in the black, that's a really, really dangerous idea. You'll see more companies go out of business. It'll truly become the survival of the giant corporation. And really, those are the ones that were trying to get the minimum wage passed. The people want the minimum wage passed based around this principally because of the way that they treat their workers, which is totally unfair and wrong. Really, whenever you want to look at this, if you have a gigantic mega corporation, such as a corporate chain such as Walmart, you should already be offering your workers $11 an hour because you have the money available. You should make people want to work there as opposed to them having to work there because you're the company that has the most jobs. Think about it, you bunch of fucking idiots. Plus, if you do that, people are going to have to start driving up their costs for industry and production. This is something where now the same products that you're getting right now for rates that you consider obnoxious, considering what they were at just 20 years ago, are going to go up even higher. So basically, you adjust the minimum wage rate, nothing is going to stay at its same rate. It's something where you almost have to adjust the minimum wage rate up and have the cost of goods remain the same, which is something that's physically impossible to do unless you do a trial run and everybody consumes like mad. But think about it. An extra $4 an hour, what does that get you? It gets you 1 gallon of gas. It gets you maybe 1 gallon of milk. It doesn't even get you a full CD. I say that because I'm a music channel. Unless it's used. So, let's really do the math here. Is that really going to solve all of the problems? No, it's not. Number 5, all drugs should be legalized and the punishments need altered. I know people are looking at me like, man, yeah, you look like a stoner. Of course you want all drugs legalized. Well, we're working on it with marijuana. No, I'm talking everything. I'm talking marijuana, I'm talking hard drugs, I'm talking narcotics, I'm talking pills, I'm talking whatever you are thinking. It should all be legalized. But it's the punishments that really need to be altered. You've all seen the memes on Facebook about people that possess a little bit of pot and all of a sudden get a shitload of jail time. Blah, blah, blah. Well, The European Union, some countries at least, have a system where if you have a problem with drugs, you are entered into treatment and counseling programs. You're entered into programs that encourage treatment and help you get clean and help you no longer have a desire or drive to turn to the drugs. This is something that actually has worked. Yeah. Instead of throwing people in lockup where people are talking about drugs and are scamming ways to try to get drugs in, criminals, instead you talk to it with a counselor. You go through treatment programs. You go to rehabilitation programs. Yes, the temptation will still be out there. Yes, if all drugs are legalized, they'll be able to walk down to a street and just get all the cocaine that they fucking want. I understand that. However, if you talk to them about counseling and treatment, then there won't be a drive. Now you might say, Mark, what about those that are extremely, extremely addictive, such as heroin? Do you still keep those legalized? Of course I do. But I sell them at very, very small doses. Something where if you're going to consume it, you're going to get a dose that is very, very tiny. That's not going to have all of the altered effects of large ticket consumption. I'm also going to limit the amount in which you can consume and purchase in one place at one time. Now this is something that would require a lot of technological, flimflammery. Something where all of the different retail chains would have to be united here. That way you can track the consumption. It's also something where I would probably really consider taxation. And the reason why I would consider taxation is not only for the import fees, because some of these drugs aren't being manufactured domestically, but also because it's something that's going to help with the national deficit. That's one of the big reasons why you do this. You help adjust your deficit. That way, whenever you get closer to being bottom line at the zero, now you're able to do a lot of programs that can talk about avoiding some of these things. Smoking is legal. I have a pack of cigarettes right here, legal as can be. But there's plenty of talking and information about not smoking. Cigarettes are bullies. Alcohol has been legal forever. And there are people that say, always have a designated driver. Have a problem with drinking? Call this number. Have a problem with gambling? Call this number. All legal as can be. Why can that be true with drugs as well? It can be, and it can help domestically. Number 4, one nation under God does not imply the Christian God. One nation under God is a statement that was made by in the Constitution on money and everything like that to imply all gods, not your Christian God, and really that's where I have to stop right there. The Christians are the only persons that I know that are really taking this to heart. They're really taking this to heart. And I am a former Roman Catholic. I was within the Christian community. And I've seen this, and it's one of the things that makes me not want to come back. It really isn't. You guys take everything so gosh darn seriously about this. One nation under God implies one nation under whoever is up there. Whoever you believe. If you believe nothing, then it's one nation under nothing. If you believe in God of the Christian faith, it's one nation under God. If you believe in Allah, it's one nation under Allah. We are a melting pot. We are not a Christian nation. We are a nation of mixed religions. You will go into towns where there will be both synagogues and churches as well as other places for praise. There will be individuals that will follow the flying spaghetti monster or perhaps fucking Luke Perry. I don't know. If the Church of Luke Perry is out there, please give me a hell yeah. This is something where you need to understand that one nation under God does not mean that just because your God's name is God, that's who they're talking about. God means Godhead, figurehead. And that's the tense and the scope of the definition of the word that they are using. Get that through your heads. Number 3, gay marriage should not only be legal, but churches should marry the couples within their parishes. Oh, I bet you just hate me now. Oh, I bet you just hate my ass now. Well, that's okay. I can live with that. Here's the reason why, though. Remember how I told you in the last portion that I was a former Roman Catholic? That Bible book, I've read it. Treat others the way in which you want to be treated. And in some of the hymns, whatsoever you do to the least of my people, that you have done unto me. So, let's review this. Treat others the way you want to be treated. You kill a kid for being gay. So, you want people to kill you. Whatsoever you do to the least of my people, that you have done unto me. So you just killed God Or all the times in which you have, segregated it against gays, either that or you have decided to call them negative names or label them and target them with bullying and all this other bullshit. You've done it to God. Think about that. Think about that. You wouldn't call your God gay. Not whenever you're praying. You would not be like, "Dear Jesus, I would like to have a new samurai sword, you freaking queer." You would not do that. You're pissed at me for doing that, and I'm doing it as an example. Gay people should be allowed to be married wherever they want. It shouldn't be something where it has to be, by the state. It's something that should be welcomed into churches and parishes throughout the country. This is something that would be very, very good in really silencing this debate. Not to mention it's also something where Christians and those who are very radically against this idea, either that or those who are kind of on the fence, can kind of really do the whole olive branch idea with this and really showcase that this is a faith that is centered around peace. But that's certainly not what we've seen as of recent, and there's certainly groups that are more opinionated about this than others, but this is something that I think really needs to be done, and it's one that I would very much push for if I myself had the power to push for it. However, at the same time, I understand that whenever you are a church or a parish, you are legally allowed to refuse to do things like that. And I think that that's something that also needs to be changed. Separation of church and state does not make the church able to supersede all of the laws of the state. There are certain things that should be allowed to happen, such as distribution of communion and distribution of wine to minors, because it's symbolic. It's symbolism. That's cool. That's fine. But whenever it comes to going against something that is legal within the mandate of the state or within the legal mandate of the nation, I do believe that there's a problem there. Also, another thing that I would do is I would have all churches pay taxes, but that's just me. Number 2, the American dream is dead. It is. Look around you. Look around at all the different places that you can go to shop. You can go to Walmart, you can go to Kmart, you can go to Target. Those are the 3 big ones. They are international. If you need to eat some food, you can go to Wendy's, you can go to McDonald's, you can go to Burger King. If you need to go and get yourself some gas, you can go to BP, you can go to Sheetz. There are companies that are legally everywhere. Literally, that's legally. Well, they are legally there too. The American dream once implied that anybody could come over to America and do exactly what they wanted to do. If they wanted to form a business that was centered around shoehorns and basically be a traveling shoehorn salesman, they could do that, and hell, they might even have their own fucking building. You would never see a shoehorn salesman in a building today in America. Principally because they would never ever get people through the front door. Everybody would buy their shoehorns at a place such as Walmart or Target or whatever. Ma and Pa restaurants are definitely something that still is going okay, but they too are also starting to flounder a little bit. More often than not, you see the influx of large corporate chains that have, familiar catchphrases and familiar promotions that really are the restaurant choices du jour. This is something that is really a huge problem. The American dream now is at such a death point where right now I think it's currently on life support, but I say that it's dead because it might as well be. With all of the economical share of the pot going to these big corporations, what's left for a small-time business? What's left for a small-time gentleman or lady that has a dream? Nothing. They just go to one of those corporations, become a part of that family, and that's it. But meanwhile, in the back of their minds, their dream is there, but their dream is being left unresolved. Instead, the dreams of a couple of people from, decades ago, that just so happen to have risen to the top, are now continuing to have their wealth and fortune gained, while a majority of Americans are left in the middle or impoverished. It's terrible. It's something where local individuals should be able to form their own business and have their own powerhouse. It's to the point where local flower shops here or mattress factories are currently restructuring or going out of business based around the fact that they can't compete with individuals that are able to really give them this stuff for a much cheaper value and whenever the hell they want it. Somebody could go and get a dozen roses or a mattress while they're also getting peas or a turkey for Thanksgiving dinner. And that's wrong. The supercenter ideology is wrong. You should have to go to multiple places to get the special things that you need. And that's not just because I want you to use all of the gas in your gas tank to do so. It's because then you're truly stimulating the entire economy instead of just one business. Finally, number one, the most unpopular opinion that I probably have, Americans are really just as ignorant and stupid as the rest of the world thinks and says that they are. And this is true. I work in retail. I'm just going to go ahead and admit that. So I see it every day. I work in retail in a low-income area, so man, do I really see it. Americans are ignorant. Americans are stupid. Americans think that they should get everything that their way. They have an entitlement issue. And let's face it, our value on education is sincerely flawed. This is something where kids will go to school, they will complain about not learning anything, but then will also complain about never having a social life. Kids are stupid, just in general, but that's just me. Education now is more focused on the standardized testing to grant them more funding than actual education. This is something that's being worked on to kind of destroy the reform for that, because that was a reform that really didn't work out that well. But it's still something that's happening in some states, Pennsylvania included. Americans also believe that they should be the police of the world. This is also wrong. If some other country is doing something that's, we don't like, but they're not doing it to us, who gives a fuck? Let them resolve their differences. Let them resolve their problems. If it's something where they turn to the world for help, either that or for some guidance, then that's understandable. Americans also are very gun happy, they're trigger happy, and they're blame happy. They're gun happy and trigger happy even though every single time a gun kills somebody, they all of a sudden think that everyone's going to try and take away their guns, especially Barack Obama, when in reality, the only thing that's going to happen is that people are going to say, hey, maybe you should take a test before you're allowed to get a gun. Perhaps it is your mentality that is the blame. Americans are also extremely blame happy, especially here in 2014. In 2014, not a single person has ever done anything wrong in their lives. But everybody around them, every business around them, every employee of said business around them, has done everything wrong to them, including slandering the name of their family and taking a piss on the baby Jesus' face. That's right. These are individuals that have absolutely no idea of what it is to actually own up to something that they themselves have done. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, that you have to sell somebody as part of your job, a credit card. And a credit card comes with an interest rate fee. Either that or a fee that comes by every single month. Let's say that there's a 6-month free period. At the end of the 6-month free period, they start to notice that something's being taken out of their account. They complain. They complain about the salesperson never telling them that. They complain about the company trying to scam them and embezzle them out of money, when in reality all of the terms have been disclosed to them, and everything has actually been provided to them, and information that they actually have in their hands that they're complaining doesn't have the information within it. That's what I mean. Americans are too stupid to actually follow through on all the things that they think are going to help them in the short term, but actually end up hurting them in the long term. Americans also love to hear themselves talk. That's part of the ignorance, and that's part of the stupidity. Because a lot of the things that Americans say aren't very bright. I'm sure a lot of the things that you think I say probably aren't very bright. However, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best to play devil's advocate on a nation that seriously has gone downhill, especially in the past 15 or so years, from at least what I've seen. Now, after examining my history, I've noted that this is something that's been kind of happening for longer than that. But all things considered, this is whenever I've started to note it, and whenever it's really started to become a huge part of my life. I understand this video is long, and for Isaac, I certainly hope that this was something that was certainly worth the suggestion. For some of your unpopular opinions, turn to the comments section and let me know what you think. What are some of your most unpopular opinions about society in America? We need to take a serious look at ourselves, America. And for those of you viewing this from the world community, I do want to sincerely apologize for some of the things that we do. Because for being the supposed greatest country on earth, we really don't show it. We really don't display it. Really, to be perfectly blunt, we're not the greatest country on earth. We're a country that does not like to help one another whatsoever. It's all about our own personal bottom line. If you don't fit into that, then get the fuck out. Just like those people that raise their voice, such as myself, we'll have a lot of comments from individuals saying, well, if you don't like America, get the fuck out. I think the real problem is that you, person making that comment, are in America. But that's just me.